one of the most confusing topics can be around what it is to have high, mature, divine qualities as a man in their masculine essence. And what I really want to say and be clear on is I don't want this to come across as another thing that society, or especially women, demand of you as a man or of men. I think there's enough demand or expectation and sometimes righteousness about what we think as a culture men need to be. So it's not about that. It's actually about unpacking and identifying one of the biggest, you'd say, stimulants or driving forces within a man if it stays unknown or in the shadow, that actually drive abuse and perpetuate trauma. So I really want to say that the reason that we're even in this position is because for hundreds of years, actually probably I would say thousands of years, that men were not taught the difference between what true healthy power was and what true healthy leadership was. I'm not going to pretend I have all of the answers to that, but I guess what I'm saying is, as much as that this is actually about responsibility, I'm not trying to justify ill behavior of men, but I want to really highlight that I am not wanting you to feel like this is another thing. This is another burden that you have to match up to another expectation. Because ironically, the quality that I'm talking about is unfiltered, unbridled, relentless, radical responsibility and ownership of your actions. Where you've misused, where you've abused, where you've lied, where you've manipulated, where you've neglected, where you've gaslighted, and this can be to self, but of course mostly to other. So if you're wanting to contribute to a massive change in the way that men walk through this world, then, and you're wondering what your contribution can be, it's beginning to look at the part of yourself that closes down and shuts down when someone might say, question your actions, or ask you to take responsibility, or pokes your defensiveness, or asks you or invites you to take deeper ownership without any justification. So the two biggest driving forces that I see when I work with men that drive pride and drive deflection, manipulation, gaslighting, like not owning things, hiding, lying, continuous manipulation, and they justify them to themselves and they justify it to others, is actually a deep sense of unlove and shame that they don't even know is there. That on top of that, to protect themselves from feeling a sense of rejection or not being good enough or not being able to be enough in general to supply, provide, support, be on purpose, is this, it's almost like this exaggerated, like hyper protection of intelligence or physical strength, or going after money, and these things that externally make, give this false sense of power. And I've said this before in other teachings, and I teach this a lot, especially at our alchemy retreat, is that power in its truest sense is our relationship, how we relate to reality, well connected to our internal freedom. So how we relate to reality, if we can be with reality as it is, internally and externally, well connected to our internal freedom. And here's the piece that's really important here. Women are born to endure intensity. If you think about birth, we are born to endure intensity. The amount of breath work, sweat lodges, ice baths, intense experiences that I have been present for, co-facilitated, supported, facilitated myself. Every single time, the women are able to endure the intensity longer. It's in our nature. It's like in our DNA because of the nature of many women having naturally like more identifying with their feminine, which is full expression, right? Which is the truth of feeling and fullness and creative and explosion and chaos. So that's one thing, but also a lot of women have to push a small human being out their vagina, and that requires to be able to be with intensity. So by nature, but also by a deeper essence, we endure more intensity, or can. Whereas men have been taught to guard up, toughen up, contract in, lock down, shut down to feeling, and then drive through. And this has created a increased sensitivity to pain, as in they will shut down sooner, they will tap out sooner, they will get more exhausted when it comes to like expression and feeling emotion if they have not practiced staying with intensity. And I don't mean locking up, shutting down, cutting off to feeling and disassociating and being able to push through. That will weaken your ability to be with life. But when you feel intensity arise, or let's say in a moment where you're with, like, it could be in a work situation, but more frequently does this come up in partnership. If your partner's sharing how they felt when you've done something, or an impact that you've made on them that they want you to see or they want to talk about, and you feel this like defensiveness, or you feel this like sense of being wrong, or you want to caretake, you want to overcompensate, or you want to push it away, or you want to put the blame onto them, or you justify your behaviors, all of that is a little boy deep down who wasn't nurtured at some level and able to regulate the intensity that he was feeling, and therefore has protected himself with either defensiveness or overcompensating or blaming himself, and will either deflect it or take too much ownership or try and save them and fix that, people please, self-sacrifice, or lie, manipulate, gaslight, and continue this abusive cycle. Because either way, whichever way you're going, into people pleasing or into like manipulation or lying or not taking ownership, it's coming from the same place. So if you want to begin to, and this is the real ticket, the quality, the thing about this piece is that if you're willing to open up to that intensity, to feel that sense of like that you're being either rejected or being put on a stake, or that that you're wrong, because I know that that's the feeling of like wrongness or shame, and your mind might get defensive and your ego might attack them. But if you're willing to open to that and to breathe into that and embrace that and enter that space within yourself, open to yourself, not only will you feel so deeply connected to the person that you're with, let's say in partnership, you will feel so connected to yourself, but you will be able to have the opportunity to actually regulate and empty out that feeling, and that deep yearning, that longing that men want for freedom, you'll experience it within yourself. That is the best bit about this. So if you're looking to restore relationship where there has been, it could be trauma or misuse or abuse or some kind of something that's happened in a relationship, and I'm not saying that everything is your fault, men's fault, like, do not mishear me. I'm saying that men usually struggle to completely own, without any hint of defensiveness or justification. I did that because, but, oh, I'm sorry, you felt that way. Or, well, if you hadn't of, then I. Or, well, that doesn't really matter. Or, you're making a big deal of that. Or, the past is in the past. These are all examples of dismissing. These are all examples of not owning it completely. If you can simply put out what you did, this is what I did, you're right, that was wrong, I am sorry. Doesn't matter what the reasons were behind it. It doesn't, you're not putting yourself up to be crucified. And I know sometimes that's the feeling. You're actually showing the other party that you can take complete ownership of your actions and of your life, and what you are doing is inciting extreme amounts of trust and safety, which then they will open, and then you will get to experience deeper connection with them, and then you will feel more like alive and in leadership of that situation and of your life. So the most powerful, potent quality of a man is taking extreme, beautiful, radical ownership of their life and all of their actions.